Hi, I'm Reverend Darrell Williams, and I'm here with Reverend J. Clif Christopher, a United Methodist elder and the founder and CEO of Horizon Stewardship Company. He's a widely sought-after consultant and author of numerous books on stewardship. You may remember him from our last annual conference as one of our keynote speakers. As a matter of fact, Bishop Scholl referred to him as a stewardship guru. Clif, thank you for taking time to share some of your wisdom and experience related to stewardship, and particularly pastoral leadership in connection with stewardship. This is a conversation about money and church finances, a topic that many lay people and even clergy don't really like to discuss. Christopher, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Clif, why do you think talking about money in the local church makes so many people so very uncomfortable?
Because money is the chief source of the sin in their lives. More of them are sinning with the decisions they're making about money than they are with any other part of their lives. And they know that. And they're not very comfortable when the preacher or the church begins to talk about it. It's getting awfully close to home. They know that if God truly got their money, their heart's pretty wide open and vulnerable. And when he gets their heart, they're not real sure just where he's going to take their life.
Well, where your treasure is, there shall your heart
Absolutely.
be also. Pastors will often say that they like to stay above the fray by not talking about money, leaving that for the financial officers of the church. They steer clear of looking at financial reports and most certainly never examining personal giving records of church members. What do you think about this hands-off policy?
Well, I don't think a lot of it, frankly. We're called to lead, and the church is what we're supposed to lead. And being ignorant about the revenue stream into the nonprofit organization we're responsible for, frankly, makes no sense. We need to have all the information we possibly can about corporate giving as well as individual giving in helping to make the right decisions on behalf of our mission, which is incredibly important. Pastors will say they want to stay above the fray, as you say. But I think, frankly, it gets to that survival instinct that a lot of pastors have. Very seldom will they get in trouble for not talking about money. They know that as soon as they start to talk about it, some of their people will begin to grumble, will get upset. And a lot of pastors will, frankly, just try to avoid that. And it's hard to tell them that they need to get back in the fight.
What do you believe is the single most important thing that pastors can do to increase giving in their local church?
You know, single's tough, but I certainly would say that they're not going to increase giving in their local church until they become examples of what being a good steward's all about.
Sure.
So it has to start there. Beyond that, I would say that the single thing that most pastors could do is to create a culture of where money becomes a significant part of the dialogue within that congregation, of how money relates to their life and what they're doing with it and the decisions that they're making. Churches that do extraordinarily well in per capita giving, money's not a shock when it's talked about. It is that church realizes it's an enormous part of all of our lives, and it's talked about in a spiritual realm as much as anything else. Sunday school, from the pulpit, and in a variety of ways.
So you would say making talking about money a part of the culture of the church?
Absolutely. Removing that stigma that we can't talk about it. It really surprises me today as I go down the highway and I see these signs out on the road advertising what the preaching series is going to be or what the sermon is. And I'm seeing a whole lot of them lately that have something to do with sex. The preacher's talking about sex this week. And I thought, wow, I used to never see that. Well, now we've kind of opened the door on that. And it's amazing that more of our churches, though, are more comfortable talking about sex than they are talking about money.
Clif, asking people to give can be hard enough. Asking those with significant financial resources to give very large amounts of money can seem particularly daunting to a local church pastor. Talk with us a bit about how to speak with people about giving large or exceptionally large gifts to their local church.
Well, first of all, we have to understand that money is given to people as a gift, just like we're gifted with other things. I wasn't gifted with a marvelous voice. But if I'd been gifted with an operatic voice, I would expect my preacher to be hassling me a lot to utilize that gift on behalf of the church. If I'd been gifted as a great teacher, I would be expecting to be hassled to use that gift on behalf of the kingdom. And frankly, that's a pastor's duty, to enable people to use the gifts they've gotten from God on behalf of that kingdom. Money is no different, no higher, no less of a blessing. My experience with very wealthy people is that they view their money as a burden in many instances, not sure exactly what to do with it, and very, very open to a pastor or other church leaders sharing with them how that blessing can indeed make a real difference on behalf of the kingdom. They'd like to have that conversation. And frankly, as pastors, we're called to have that conversation.
In about a month or so, a majority of our congregations will be engaging in their annual financial campaigns. How do you feel about the usefulness of these campaigns? And give us some do's and don'ts, if you will, about annual campaigns.
First, let me say that having an annual campaign for giving is first of all a sign that we failed.
Sure.
We should not have to remind our people once a year that they should give.
Right.
If Jesus truly had control of their life and their heart, we wouldn't have to go back and do a reminder. It would just be done. And in many, many churches, it is. They simply tithe, and they're not reminded about that. It's like breathing for them. That's where we need to get to in our churches, and it's what the book is trying to address, to change the whole culture to where we don't have to go back. But most of our churches aren't there yet, and it's kind of like that book that was written years ago. You don't shoot the horse until you've learned to drive the tractor. And our churches haven't learned to drive the tractor, so they still need the horse, and that's the annual campaign. To me, some of the do's and don'ts, you never send out a line item budget to tell people what you're doing.
Sure.
You create a missional or a narrative budget that expresses your mission. You don't run a campaign on what the church needs. You run a campaign on what people need to give. Giving affects us as individuals far more than it affects God or the church. Those types of campaigns are what's most effective.
Clif, in your role at Horizon, you are in churches of all sizes and all denominations all over the country on a regular basis. When you walk in on that first time to do a consulting project, what are the indicators of financial life and vitality that you automatically look for in a local church?
Well, when I go in to do an evaluation, I've already gotten a lot of data. So, I'm just frankly just looking at data. You know what the average giving is in that denomination. I'm going to see how that church is doing over and above that. I'm going to see how much of their giving is being done in various areas. What's the percent that they're spending on staff, on program, and on mission, etc. Frankly, the biggest thing I want to hear when I get in there is how confident are the members, a la the donors, in this place to accomplish the mission they believe is important. I know that belief in the mission is the number one reason why people choose to give. And if I hear from a membership body that they have absolute confidence that lives are being changed and the mission is being done, I know I'm going to find a very, very healthy congregation in regards to stewardship. When I hear things like, well, we ought to give better, and my daddy taught me to give, and I really should give, but they're not talking about the ongoing mission and ministry, and in many cases haven't got a clue as to what it is, that's a church that's in real trouble, and it's much deeper than money.
Clif, we know you've got to run. This is my last question. If you had 30 seconds to give a pastor one piece of advice about financial leadership, what would that be?
Pastor needs to model it boldly and openly and up front. First of all, pastor needs to preach it. It needs to be taught utilizing a variety of classes and means, including Financial Peace University, Good Sense, Crown Ministries, etc. And all of giving in the life of the church needs to be tied to its reason to be.
Sure.
That we can clearly share with our people how every dollar is going to building the kingdom and fulfilling the mission and the ministry that God has called us to.
Clif, thank you very much for sharing with us.
Thank you.
God bless
My
you.
pleasure.
Your insights are appreciated, and no doubt you have piqued the interest of many. Those wanting more can find the name of Reverend Christopher's company and information on his books in the discipler curriculum posted on the conference website.